Y'all, over the years, Wizard101 has added several arcs to the main game storyline, and a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on where these arcs rank from worst to best. But I'm gonna keep it real. I've heard a lot of wrong answers recently, so today I thought we would answer the question definitively. We are gonna be ranking every single arc in the game from worst to best. Now, if you're confused about what an arc is, it's basically the main chapters of the main Wiz storyline. So we got the Malistaire arc all the way through Dragonspire, the Morgana arc all the way through Chrysalis, Grandfather Spider arc through Imperia, the Design arc through Wallaroo, and the new Earthborne arc in the most recent chapter, which is Salinopolis. I'm gonna be ranking them from worst to best. Let's get right into it. I am putting Arc 2, the Morgana arc, at the lowest spot on this ranking. Now, I know this is gonna be a hot take, because some people love this arc, some people hate it, so I'm sure it's controversial. And here's the thing, I actually think that this arc, like every other arc in Wiz, is worth playing through for the first time. There's no beef at that level, right? You got things like Shadow Magic, Astral Magic, Critical. There's a lot of really cool things that are introduced through the arc for the first time ever. But the mechanics that are introduced alone can't carry an arc. We have to look at the villain and also the tediousness of it. It is by far the most tedious arc. You have to defeat so many mobs that it actually becomes a drag. There's a real reason why even the world elixirs for this arc are priced much higher than you would expect. Things like Chrysalis, things like Azteca, they're way higher. You end up grinding way longer for the same storyline payoff that you do in every other arc. And also, I think the big thing that holds this entire arc back is Morgana herself. Now, Morgana, don't get me wrong, she's clearly evil. She is clearly powerful. In revisiting her story, right, she starts a war in Celestia to learn astral magic, brings darkness upon Zafaria, and messes with their, like, entire alliance system in order to get her deck of shadows. And she does all of that to learn the Song of Creation, which, to do so, ends up destroying the world of Azteca. And she even subjugates the entire world of Chrysalis to have, like, I guess, a palace or a world at her disposal to sing the Song of Creation and rewrite the spiral from. She's evil. The stakes are high against her. That being said, I think her motivations are just not that believable. Why is Morgana evil to the point where she doesn't think twice about sinking a comet into an entire world? That just does not become clear to the player. I'll be honest, they do attempt to give her a little bit of more, like, you know, character building with Ghost Avalon with her younger self, and also with the Chrysalis memories, the ones where we actually polymorph into her. But those just really highlight her thirst for power, not why she turned out so bad to begin with. I think pure greed for power, while that's fine, like, people can be ambitious, I'm just not sure I believe that that alone can lead to this much destruction and cruelty. When you lump that in with the tediousness of actually going through the arc, I'm gonna have to put Morgana, Arc 2, at the lowest. Next in the ranking, I have to put Arc 4, the most recent full arc in Wizard101, the Design arc. As a refresher, the Design arc wasn't short of highlights. We visited Caramel because of cavities that were coming out of nowhere. It ended up becoming clear to us that our exploits with Shadow Magic had created a paradox in the spiral, and it created a new thing out of nothing. And this thing, called Design, ends up wreaking havoc throughout the spiral until we basically appease him by the end of Wallaroo. Now, while I think that the end of Caramel boss with Grand Nana and even the 8-person Lemuria fight are seriously underrated parts of this arc, I just feel like it's way too abstract of a storyline for me to even wrap my mind around. To even understand what Design is, I feel like takes a lot. How does something come out of nothing? Like, they don't really explain that well enough, in my opinion. And sometimes that abstractness, it kind of works. Like with Novus, right? They brought in 4 different, like, real, like, you know, civilizations that were fighting over this new world that Design created. It was pretty cool. I feel like they introduced so many enemies, and it was actually kind of realistic to the way the real world works. Like, you know, like, I feel like the way all these, like, very greedy civilizations came together, and then the wizard ended up being the enemy. I think it was really cool, but it felt like we never really had one big bad to fight, right? The arc, it's named after Design. We never fight Design. We only fight the things that he creates by accident because he doesn't even know what he's capable of. I think unlike Malistaire, Morgana, or even a Titan, it's just kind of hard to wrap your mind around something that shouldn't have existed to begin with. I really think that's the only major issue that I have with the storyline. storyline, I will put it above the Morgana arc, mainly because it's not tedious whatsoever. I feel like it's one of the relatively easier arcs at the level that you're at, right? You started at level 130. Even if you have Darkmoor gear, you're good. And then you start getting upgradable gear as early as Caramel, if not, like, you know, with the Merciless set in Lemuria. Like, you get some really nice upgrades. It's not that crazy. I just think the storyline is not that great compared to what it could be. Now, third in the ranking, I am going to put the shortest arc on this entire ranking. And that's because we just don't know enough about it. I would be down to put this higher, the Earthborne arc, if we had more to go off of, but we've only gotten Selenopolis so far, and that's more of like a transition into the arc. But yes, I'm putting the most recent arc, the one that's going to be continued by the Darkmoor update that's dropping in fall, at number 3. Now, why am I putting it so high? I honestly don't think Selenopolis was anything that crazy. I will say this, though. I don't think it was meant to be a real part of the arc. I think it was just supposed to set it up and let us know that there's another person from Earth in the spiral like us. But I just think it's a really, really cool plot line, right? I think we're returning down to the final boss being a wizard, and the fact that it's a little bit more similar to the wizard that we've come to know and love, over 170 levels, I do not see that going that badly for Wiz. I can't put this higher because I genuinely don't know enough about it, obviously. It's just one world to build up. That being said, I think the fact that Darkmoor's a part of this, it could be elite, so I have to put it up. Now, number 2. This was a very, very hard choice, but I'm gonna have to put Arc 1, the iconic Malistaire arc. It is gonna be in the number 2 spot. Now, why is this not in the number 1 spot? I'm sure a lot of people are wondering. First, let's talk about the good stuff. This is an elite arc, right? We're looking at a very, very tragic case of like destroyed love and someone that'll go to all the lengths needed to bring that love back, Malistaire. And I think a very underrated part of the storyline is that his brother Cyrus, who hates the wizard, ends up being our biggest ally in our quest to stop him from summoning the Dragon Titan. And very, very similar to Morgana, we're very aware of his power and cruelty, but at least we get a very reasonable explanation as to why. He wants to break the rules and bring his love back from the death, his wife Sylvia Drake. And while that alone straight up sells the goddamn plot to me, I feel like people don't appreciate how well they build up Malistaire as a villain. The fact that he shows up in the tutorial, already a big deal, right? He is the guy. And I feel like the fact that the first glimpse into Ravenwood that you see, it's very, very obvious how big a part of the universe Malistaire is because of what he removes from Ravenwood, right? The fact that there's a floating section of Ravenwood that one person was able to remove, and that's one of the first things you see when you play the game other than him in the tutorial. I mean, what a build up, right? And also what I can really, really appreciate is every single world that we went to, with maybe the exception of Mushu, right? It has a real purpose in the storyline. I feel like you really just go to Mushu to get access to the Dragonspire key. That's like the only real reason. But like the Croconomicon plot, the Meowiardi plot with its culmination in Big Ben, like that is literally chef's kiss cinematography. And it all happened right when the game dropped. I feel like there's a reason why a lot of people rate this arc so highly. Now, why am I now putting this at the very, very top? Simply because I just don't believe that it has any memorable fights. And what I mean by that, there are no cheats, there's no concept of cheats, and also, as if all of that wasn't enough, I don't know if it's because of what they've done to Arc 1, or if it's always been like this, but honestly, dude, there's something very annoying about getting all the way through Arc 1, and then just seeing Malistaire, a dude that can uproot a school and leave nothing behind, casting dark sprites at you, right? Like, at least other final bosses in other arcs, like, you're actually gonna fight them and experience some kind of struggle. You're probably gonna experience it at the end of every single world. Arc 1 simply doesn't have any challenges like that. Yes, it's not tedious as a result, and that honestly puts it up very, very high in this ranking, but you don't remember anything at the end of it unless you actually self-impose some sort of challenge to make it harder for yourself. So it's very, very high up, but it cannot be at the top like the next arc. I'm sure y'all have guessed it by now, but this means that at the top of this ranking, I'm gonna be putting Arc 3, Polaris, all the way through Imperia Part 2. It is honestly, in my opinion, peak Wiz in every single way imaginable. One, it doesn't take you years to quest through this. I think you could get through Polaris and Mirage in a couple of days if you wanted, or you could take your time with it and enjoy. And not only do you really learn a little bit as you go through the world about Grandfather Spider, his plans, his aspirations, right? Like trying to unanchor the spiral, trying to reverse the sands of time in Mirage. Like, these are like crazy big bad things. Not only do you get a little bit of his evil every world, every single final boss fight is so memorable, man. The sands of time, Borealis Peaks, like this is just like beautiful placement, memorable characters, and I think easily one of my favorite worlds of all time. Imperia carries the hell out of this art. Now, the reason I like Imperia so much is because there's so much goddamn moral ambiguity by this time in the plot. Let's look at the way they set up Arc 3, right? We graduate at the beginning, and almost right away, Bartleby, probably the most powerful person that we've known up to this point, is taken out of commission. We later become aware of the fact that Grandmother Raven is behind it, and she's trying to get Bartleby out of the equation so that no one can interfere with her, trying to rewrite the spiral from Grandfather Spider, who also, by the way, wants to rewrite the spiral. It's like a final showdown between the light and shadow narrative that they've been building, except both light and shadow are bad for the spiral. They both want to do something that nobody's down for. I think the Bat and Mallory and the Wizard, the way they work together is also seriously ridiculous. Like children turning on basically the things that manifested them into existence. I don't know, there's just a lot of stuff that happens that I just feel like I'm excited to play through this again at some point, just to experience it all over again. And I can say that more about this arc than any other arc on Wiz. Obviously, when I said this is a definitive ranking, I realized that it is subjective, so I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts. Do y'all agree? Do y'all disagree? I feel like anytime I do one of these, there's so many people that disagree in ways that I wouldn't even like assume is possible. I look forward to reading all of y'all's thoughts. Comment below, drop a like if you enjoyed, leave a sub review, and as always, if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. Stay awesome, y'all. See y'all soon. And yeah.